On September 19th last year, my father asked me to switch him off. Being terminal, bedridden, and in immense pain due to cancer and multiple infections, he asked his doctors first to help him end the pain and pass on in peace. The response he got was, "Let's hope and fight, Mr. Savas." He was not satisfied. In full realization of his situation, he asked me repeatedly for a death with dignity. I was shaken to my core at this cruel reality that terminal patients in excruciating pain may wish assistance in dying, but that this wish is illegal in more than 90% of countries in the world. That when terminal patients no longer have the choice of life, they seek options on how to pass on, but not all options are available to them. My father's last wish was illegal. There is no death with dignity law in Cyprus. The law is only available to less than 200 million people globally. There is a proposed law being discussed in the Cyprus parliament, as in many other countries. Until the issue became deeply personal, I never fully understood what this debate is all about. Before September 19th of last year, if you had asked me about where I stand on the issue, I would have been neutral or maybe even against it. Why? Because it can be misused, because so many things can go wrong in its implementation, because in my Christian faith, ending your life is a sin, and because my personal values are based on the belief that all life is precious and must be preserved, and that we have an obligation to keep on fighting for our loved ones. Then came my father's final wish, and I got to experience firsthand the pain, the fear, his panic about losing control, his desire in three simple words: switch me off, and the absolute lack of options I had to help him. My father's heart stopped beating suddenly one day, and he died alone in hospital, leaving me in a state of hopelessness. After a period of mourning, I decided that I needed to heal through some kind of actions. I spent weeks researching and interviewing people all over the spectrum of beliefs on death with dignity. I discovered a lot and made realizations which transformed my own way of thinking. This speech is giving me the opportunity to put it all together and share it. Not because I wish for you to go out and fight with me to legalize death with dignity in Cyprus or in your own countries. What you do with this knowledge is completely up to you. I'm here to share information and place the issue in an appropriate, compassionate context. In the context of providing terminal patients with equal human rights globally. In the context of providing terminal patients with options which legally protect them, respect them, and release them from the pain and fear in their final days. The first thing I realized in my research is that a lot of us think that death with dignity is the same as euthanasia. Truth is, I had it wrong too until a couple of months ago. A death with dignity law is different from the existing laws on euthanasia. Euthanasia may be involuntary or passive, that is, relevant to a patient in a permanent coma, where a doctor or relative may decide to withdraw life support. Euthanasia may be active, such as when a patient asks to be given excessive pain medication to speed up their death. Death with dignity is a very specific process, and the following four criteria must be met at all times. Firstly, the patient initiates the process voluntarily, asks for it repeatedly, and is fully informed. Their competency and sound mental state are verified by an independent mental health professional. Secondly, two independent doctors verify officially and at least 15 days apart that the patient's life expectancy is less than 6 months. and there is no medical treatment which can prolong their life. These two conditions are often monitored by expert government agencies for compliance with the law. Thirdly, the patient is in insufferable pain, and no available pain medication can alleviate their suffering. And lastly, the life-ending medication is self-administered by the patient. The state of Oregon death with dignity model, also adopted by Canada, and the one being proposed for implementation in Cyprus, is very strictly that. And in the 30 years that medical assistance in dying has been legal in Oregon, there has not been a slippery slope. A slippery slope is what opponents of death with dignity state as their main objection, that the law will be extended to people who do not meet the criteria and there will be abuse or coercion. But in all these years in Oregon, as independent research has shown, this was never the case. Death with dignity has not been used by non-terminal patients to commit suicide. It has not been taken involuntarily. It has not been used by patients with mental illness. When implemented properly and strict limits are placed on who can access the laws, the act has been used exactly by those it was intended for. And it has protected thousands of people with cancer, cardiovascular, respiratory, or neurological illnesses from taking their last breath in fear and pain. And yet, death with dignity is currently only available to citizens of Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Canada, Colombia, Australia, New Zealand, 11 US states, and more recently, Spain and Austria. It's not that nations don't wish to give citizens choice over their body. The challenge is the how to best do this. We are at a serious turning point in our evolutionary path on this issue. Through the evolution of medical science, we are able to sustain life even under the most adverse conditions. Medications can keep patients alive when nature could have chosen otherwise. Chemo, radiation, chemo, surgeries, chemo, alternative healing methods, and then there is the pain, the unbearable and prolonged pain. We live on a planet where evolution is a requirement for life. Worldwide problems are resolved and laws evolve with globally organized efforts and our collective intelligence. We managed to get out of the recent pandemic through the power of collaboration. Death with dignity is an area where we as humans can evolve. And fortunately, there are proven models we can adopt. Through this research, I have come to believe that all of our happiness, freedom, and human rights are tied to the happiness, freedom, and human rights of every citizen on earth. Even when it's only a few, even if it's not for us. Who am I to stand in the way of evolution? I wish to share two stories which are very close to my heart. Laura Johannes and Ann Keller both died of pancreatic cancer, like my father. Laura didn't die in the peaceful way she wanted because she did not have access to death with dignity in the state of Massachusetts. She recorded an incredibly powerful message 2 days before her death, from which I quote, "Now as I am dying, I find myself with no choices as to how to die. I have no control over the manner of my death, and that is making it harder for me to enjoy friends and family and loved ones that surround me now, here, in my final days." And Keller had access to death with dignity. In her video supporting medical assistance in dying, Anne said, "I just was mortified of my family having to see me struggle and slowly fall apart. Death with dignity means that I have a say and what I want for me is important. It doesn't mean that what I do is right for somebody else. It just means that it should be my choice." When patients don't have the choice of life, they should at least have the human right to dignified options in death. After repeatedly viewing these videos, I got clarity on a fine point in this debate. It's not an ethical dilemma about choosing death over life. It is about the human right of patients to choose peace over fear in their last days. It is about easing their pain and the trauma on their loved ones. It is about being able to have protection and compassion when you need it the most. When someone is dying, their primary concern is not the when and the why of their situation, but rather the how. How will my last moments feel like? Will they be spent in excruciating pain? Will my family have to watch me? Gloria Taylor, the first person to win the legal right in Canada for medical assistance in dying, had ALS and was afraid of dying of suffocation and tasting death in each of her final breaths. John Griffith did not want his only option to be refusing food or drink in order to speed up his painful death process. My father simply did not wish to continue enduring unbearable pain unnecessarily and was just looking for mercy. Is that too much to ask? How difficult is it to have a law in place to protect the human rights of these vulnerable individuals? I was surprised to learn that in Canada, of the 16,000 patients who were approved for death with dignity in 2022, only 80% actually end up taking the life-ending medication. In the US, that percentage is less than 50%. What does that mean? It means that even if not exercised, having this option is still rewarding and comforting for the patient. When patients don't have the choice of life, they should at least have the human right to dignified options in death. What's very interesting is that in countries where death with dignity is available, society's attitude towards death gradually change, leading to real and meaningful improvements in the whole palliative care system. Treatment of depression improves. Open discussions about death with doctors improve. Patients can handle their last affairs with ease of mind, say goodbye to their loved ones on their own terms. The system is helping them have more freedom and more control over their body. So, what is the impact of inaction of decision makers on this issue? In England alone, 300 terminally ill people annually choose suicide due to suffering. A smaller number of British citizens who can afford it travel annually to Switzerland to offer themselves a death with dignity. Relatives who have assisted their loved ones to end their life of unbearable pain have been convicted to prison for manslaughter. Shouldn't we make decision makers and anyone opposing death with dignity aware of the impact of inaction on this issue? Dr. Jackie Davis experienced the effects of inaction when her brother took his own life due to terminal cancer. In an interview 3 years ago, she said about death with dignity in the UK, "It will happen, there is no question about it. It's like votes for women. But it's a fight, and it shouldn't be." I myself welcome this fight. Through debate and discourse, we can come up with the correct model of implementation, with the appropriate layers of safeguards to ensure the maximum protection of patients. Let's bring all interested parties to the drawing board in goodwill and speed up the implementation process. Let's mitigate all concerns and create laws which are inclusive, respectful, and compassionate. It's time to give people the choice that they want and they deserve. At some point in this journey over the past few months, I felt like giving up. Constantly thinking of my father dying alone, of my failure to help him have his last wish was too painful. A voice in my head was saying, Change your speech topic. You don't need all this emotional pressure. Right about that time, one of my university students approached me with this. Miss, that story you shared a few weeks ago in class about your father, please keep sharing it. My father's slow dying process was torturous for him. Laws need to change in Cyprus. She was not the first one to share her story with me, and she will not be the last. This message will travel. Like the bright and fresh smell of hope, it will travel. Why do I feel committed to fighting for everyone's right to make this choice? Because my journey has made me passionate about alleviating the fear and pain of terminal patients. I believe in the power of legislation to protect human rights. There are proposed legislations in many countries that will give our fellow citizens the human rights they deserve. I wish to give hope to patients and their relatives. I wish to express my gratitude to all the healthcare professionals, policymakers, and spiritual groups who are working hard to construct and implement the laws. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. I wish to share one more quote that gives me hope. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, recipient of the Nobel Prize for Peace, spoke these words. In refusing dying people the right to die with dignity, we fail to demonstrate the compassion that lies at the heart of Christian values. I pray that politicians, lawmakers, and religious leaders have the courage to support the choice terminally ill citizens make in departing Mother Earth. My father was a dignified man. He is remembered by his friends as a kind man and a true fighter. We battled the cancer daily together for 18 months, and he wanted to live many more years. He was not depressed. He had not given up. Yet, he made the choice to move on. And I'm so sorry I could not grant him his last wish. I am so sorry he died alone, that I was not there to hold his hand. I am sorry he could not hold my hand. I'm going to ask everyone if they can now hold the hand of someone next to them, or hold your own hands together. Let's feel the warmth and love traveling through our bodies. Right now, we are finally holding my father and his beautiful spirit. We're holding another human being and telling them, it's okay, you can let go now. I'm grateful to all of you for holding me in this journey. Thank you.